Today, we're diving into a popular post from the Reddit titled as, "Former manager ends my job at the company I loved. I helped end his career in local tech forever." This post received 9389 upvotes. Posted by leveler_cleverer_9. The post reads as follows. "This is my first one of these. I hope it qualifies!" Exclamation mark. Apologies for this being so long, but I've had to keep this story to myself for more than a decade. Ironically, a recent court ruling means I'm now free to discuss the details publicly for the first time without penalty. I'm starting with here. The background: I worked at a very big tech company for a very long time, like decades. Over the years I had worked my way up from being a NOOB to a kind of specialist fixer. I became fairly well known internally as a security, emergency response person. I got assigned the bad or unfixable projects, many of which made news headlines. I have many stories that I can never tell publicly, sadly. Suffice it to say that multiple senior vice presidents in various divisions got to know who I was, because I effectively wrangled gnarly and complex problems and herded many intense tech nerds together to resolve big things in multiple divisions over the years. It was so fun. At the time of our story, I was working on a small security team in a product engineering division. It was a somewhat turbulent time, and our team of 8 had weathered multiple reorganizations and had so many manager changes. It was a lot, but we kept our heads down and did the work, and we all got along just fine. Sidebar, and relevant later. One of the better managers assigned to run our team immediately assigned me a huge and complicated and urgently important project to manage. It would involve people in 6 different divisions, had seriously big legal implications, and our senior VP wanted it to happen by an aggressive deadline within like 4 to 6 weeks. Oh, and my manager was leaving imminently on a long-planned vacation, so he apologetically would be away for the next 3 weeks and unable to assist. The project was to do something big and technical and which had never been done before, so no one was entirely sure how to do it, who all it would require, what steps in what order. Some of the key players had what we gently called difficult personalities. And oh, by the way, it would definitely make international news and cause a ripple in the industry when we did it. No big whoop. Manager was a decent guy and he felt bad about leaving me with this thorny mess. And I did it. We got all the people from all the divisions in a room and mapped it all out on a whiteboard. It took days, and hashed out how to do it before the deadline. Actually well before, for bonus points. And we lined everyone up to get it done. Before we pulled the actual trigger on the very big thing, I had to attend a meeting with the VP and exec leadership, several levels of management above me, and with the legal team to present the plan and to assure all of the execs that we were ready and had it all handled. So I looked the VP in the eye and assured him that I got this. And then I did. The team did the big thing sooner than the deadline. It was flawless. We rocked that. W00T. Just another day at the office? Cheeky smiley face. To the IneptManager. A few months after that epic project, our good manager left us for another role and someone new moved over from an unrelated division out of nowhere. We'll call him IneptManager. IneptManager did not know anything about security. He did not know anything about emergency response. He didn't know anything about what our division did. In fact, no one on our team had ever heard of this guy. He was that worst kind of middle manager. Self-important, dismissive of everyone. Cares most about appearances and ego. Micromanages stuff he doesn't comprehend. And just makes everything worse. But he apparently knows people, and those people get him job assignments because of politics? Loyalty? He certainly didn't have any skills or experience for our team. That guy is the worst. One of IneptManager's many weird quirks was that he didn't think it was appropriate for our team to disagree with or correct each other in front of other people. Things in tech, specifically product development, move pretty quickly, and things change all the time. So if some of our team was meeting with someone from another team, and someone something like, so we decided to make the sky green, and we're on schedule, and someone else on our team chimed in to say, actually that's changed. We decided that the sky is now going to be blue and we pushed the deadline back 2 weeks. That just happened in an earlier meeting. Oh, okay, cool. IneptManager would interrupt and say, we clearly need to get on the same page. Let's end this meeting right now and reschedule when my team has all the facts straight. What? That's insane. We literally never have any meetings if we waited until everyone knew all of the same information all the time. Oh. Their teams would routinely leave meetings with us with inaccurate info which affected release schedules, resources. It was just a mess. 3. IneptManager hostility. Shortly after IneptManager became our manager, he started being really hostile to me. Not to everyone on the team. Just me. As far as I knew, I hadn't done or said anything to earn his hostility. Suddenly, after 20+ years at this company, I could do nothing right. While this jerk didn't actually understand most of what my job was, he was sure I wasn't doing it right. And he was quick to tell me so, and often in front of others. To the point that my coworkers would take me aside to ask WTAF was going on? I didn't know either. The thing is, I was the only woman on the team. And I have a disability. Now I've been through some things working in high tech over those decades. It was very much an old boys club back then. And, I was fine. I'm not one to claim discrimination at the drop of a hat or for no reason. However, when I was trying to piece together the cause of this dude's hostility, some of his comments were sexist and not at all subtle. He also didn't like that due to my disability, and frankly, my seniority. I was given one of the few offices with a door on it in our new building. The rest of our team was in open floor plan cubicles which everyone hated. He was incensed that I, a lowly direct report, and woman, got an office and he didn't. I had more seniority than just about anyone, so even without my disability I'd have scored the office ahead of him. Note that other men in our division got offices too, because again, seniority, and that bothered him less. But I was the only woman on our floor with a door, and I was his subordinate. His ego did not like it, not one bit. He threw a fit about it. Repeatedly. There were lots of other things he said. My favorite among them towards the end was him reprimanding me for my bad attitude in a meeting we'd just had. IneptManager had told me beforehand not to say anything during that meeting, because he was insisting on sharing incorrect information again and he knew I'd want to correct it. So I sat quietly and kept my eyes on the PowerPoint presentation or the floor nearly the whole time. When I asked him how I'd had a bad attitude when I hadn't said anything, as he'd requested. I didn't like the look on your face. Okay dude. After realizing there was nothing I could do to make this guy happy with my work and to lose his hostility, I finally went to HR to go on the record. I knew they'd do fuck all about it, but I wanted to document it at least. So predictably they told me to work harder at getting along with IneptManager, and because it wasn't my first rodeo I went back to my office and emailed HR saying, thanks for meeting with me about my concerns about IneptManager. I fear his bias and misogyny will reflect negatively in my next performance review. HR should be aware that there is a real problem here and I hope you'll take steps etc. etc. Which, of course they didn't. But now it was on the record. IV. The axe falls and then a few months later he gave me a terrible performance review, as expected. Long story already long. He was trying to fire me for underperformance. Unfortunately for me, the company had started rounds of layoffs all over and it was the worst possible time to be looking for another job internally. And now I had a bad performance review on my record, too. I went back to HR and said, that thing I said I was worried would happen when we met 6 months ago? That happened. Exactly as I said. Now what? HR, once again, was no help. Also they'd done literally nothing. But hey, it was on the record, again. Helpful for the attorney later. Blah blah blah. When I realized I couldn't find a new gig at my company because of all of the layoffs, sigh. I scored a new job for much more money at a different local tech company, and pretty quickly. I live in a tech-heavy area. There was lots of shuffling between 3 to 4 big companies during this time period, and we'd often bump into other company veterans at these other companies. It was a small world. With my track record and references, it was super easy. After that was lined up, I called an employment discrimination attorney to negotiate my exit from the company I thought I'd work at until I retired. Sad face. Because I had documentation with HR explaining IneptManager's misogyny and ableism going back for some time, and because they'd done fuck all about it, and because there were witnesses who confirmed his behavior, they had no leg to stand on. They agreed to write me a relatively nice check to go away and to not sue them, and I agreed to not talk about the details of my separation agreement. I went down to my lawyer's office and signed the agreement. I looked to see who had signed the agreement for the company. I assumed it would be someone in HR, but it was still blank. I'd eventually get a copy once someone there signed it. I took my check and packed up my office and left. Bye, old company. Sad face. I started my new job a few weeks later. Karma begins. This was August of that year that I left. I got my copy of the executed contract in the mail in October. Who signed it for the company? Not HR, but my exec VP. The one who asked for the urgent, highly important, legally complicated project. The guy that first looked in the eye personally, and then delivered on this very big thing he personally asked for, before the deadline he asked for. That is who signed off on my separation agreement. I suspect that he had no idea until that moment that I was gone, and I imagine that he likely had many questions about WTF had happened. And also, why did they have to pay me a chunk of money on the way out? Whoops. I chortled when I saw it. Since the VP knew me and we had some history, an IneptManager was new to the division and was one of hundreds of middle managers he'd likely never heard of. I'm guessing IneptManager had some explaining to do. Mwah ha 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 ha. I really enjoyed the thought of that. Karma for reals. Cut to November. As I mentioned, it was a relatively small tech community in the area, and those of us who worked in security, in particular at Company X, would often encounter other current, former colleagues at Company Y or Z or whatever. Heck, there was a ton of poaching going on between the companies. One day I got a in-company chat from someone who'd worked in security at my old company. We'll call her security colleague. Security colleague asked me if I knew someone named IneptManager. Opening parenthesis exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark closing parenthesis. Why yes. Yes I did. Why? Because IneptManager was appearing on security colleague's schedule to interview for an open management position the very next day. It seems that shortly after my former exec VP had signed my separation agreement contract. IneptManager was actively looking for a new job at a new company. Hey, security colleague asked me what I thought about IneptManager. I said, you know, I can't really talk about it for legal reasons, which, boom, everyone knows what that means. But if you wanted to ring my personal cell phone later this evening to catch up on old times. Please do. She did. I hypothetically shared some stories with her about IneptManager. I also told her where his hot buttons are. The appearance, ego thing, the dominance stuff, etc. etc. And all about his misogyny and ableism, which was perfect since she was conducting his interview. I may have shared some specific scenarios, questions to ask which I knew would set him off. I wished her luck, and for the love of all that is holy to please call me after, when appropriate, and tell me how it all went. It did not go well for IneptManager. When security colleague rang me I couldn't wait. How did it go? Well, he got combative and angry and yelled at me, twice. During his interview to be hired as a manager. Facepalm. There were lots more details, now lost to time. Except, at that company, interviews loops were assessed as such, strong hire for this role hire, but not for this role, not a good fit for this job but we like them. No hire ever. Not for any role. IneptManager's interview was rated that last one, no hire ever. Blacklisted from any job, ever, at one of the biggest tech companies in the world. After being pushed out the door of one of the other biggest tech companies in the world. Derp. Shortly after that, it appeared that IneptManager moved himself and his wife and kids a few states away to work at a smaller company in another region. It took less than 6 months from when I left my old company for him to be gone as well. Hey, what gets me, still, is that IneptManager thought I was so inconsequential. So this post received 9389 upvotes. Posted by leveler_cleverer_9. The post reads as follows. This is my first one of these. I hope it qualifies! Exclamation mark. Apologies for this being so long, but I've had to keep this story to myself for more than a decade. Ironically, a recent court ruling means I'm now free to discuss the details publicly for the first time without penalty. I'm starting with here. The background: I worked at a very big tech company for a very long time, like decades. Over the years I had worked my way up from being a noob to a kind of specialist fixer. I became fairly well known internally as a security, emergency response person. I got assigned the bad or unfixable projects, many of which made news headlines. I have many stories that I can never tell publicly, sadly. Suffice it to say that multiple senior vice presidents in various divisions got to know who I was, because I effectively. A comment from user Harry WWC says, to this day he doesn't know why his interview at Company Y tanked so badly. Indeed, I think, from reading your tale, that he would be so self-unaware that he would believe that his interview was absolutely golden, and that there was absolutely no possible way he would have done anything wrong. So it must be that of an interviewer that was at fault. This comment received 2413 upvotes. A comment from user Remzi1993 says, this reminds me to never ever screw anyone in the tech and IT sector, especially specialized personnel. I'm also a web developer and currently studying software engineering. A lot of those so-called managers make the same mistakes and think they can do whatever they want. Most of them eventually get chased out of the company. Middle management needs to die off. This comment received 770 upvotes. A comment from user MRBipT says, I was hired by a TLA as a cybersecurity specialist only to be moved, TM, 6 months later to a disk backup role for absolutely no reason, just this company liked to move people around. My manager at the time was like, it's all the same, you're still a specialist. I was like, no, I can hardly spell backup. Middle managers at large IT companies literally can kill the business. This comment received 181 upvotes. A comment from user iShitSkittle says, I can almost see the satisfaction you deserve through my phone screen reflecting through those paragraphs of glorious shit sandwich you arranged for his interview lunch. I do feel proud of you, even though I don't know you, for the way you handled the knife when buttering up that sandwich and filling it with all the shit he had you hold onto to serve up when the time arrived. You even cut it diagonally and gave him a doggy bag so he could eat half at this interview and then snack on the other 2/4 at any future interviews, leaving him with smelly enough breath that nobody in their right mind would entertain the idea of sitting across a table from him for an interview. Well done. Proud of you on this one. This comment received 300 upvotes. A comment from user BugBugLadybug says, I had a very similar experience. Female in a tech role for 15 years, dream job. Disabled. But you'd not know unless you were looking for it. Managed a team of 11 very skilled workers, and had just hired a trainee manager who I was showing the ropes to in his first leadership role. My old, kind manager departs and in comes this cunt. Ableist, raging misogynist, giant ego, and temper to boot, and I was his first target, because I was very well regarded and had seniority. He crushed me, split my team in two and gave my trainee, male, into the same sports team, his team leader role, then took the work off me and gave it to him. Then started criticizing everything I did. In the end, I was not allowed to speak to anyone else in the business without going through him first. He even tried to control what I did out of working hours and went bananas that I was doing a certification off my own back, out of work time. I used to speak at conferences, and now I couldn't speak to another team. HR did nothing while I drowned. In the end I suffered a complete mental break and quit. I could have had him on constructive dismissal but was too broken to pursue it. As I was working my notice, he was asked to leave the company before he was pushed. My career has been set back years, because after it all, I didn't have any confidence left to apply for equivalent roles. So now I'm doing the work that my team members did and living a quiet life until I can work on myself again. Not a fun ending. But this is reflective of many experiences of the women in tech working with boys club men. Any men reading, if you see this happen, please try and be an ally and not just let it happen. Peace out. This comment received 413 upvotes. A comment from user Aki's fat husband says, "Great story lol. Looking back, it was good that you left." This comment received 46 upvotes. A comment from user Kingdom Hearts is Light says, "I thought this was too long to read at first, but the pacing had me on the edge of my seat. Screw that guy. Also it's hilarious he got loud with the interviewer. That guy has real problems and it's sad people keep hiring his volatile ass." This comment received 157 upvotes. A comment from user Generama_CA says, "I feel you. I was at the biggest tech company for 21 years and left last year. I was part of many amazing things and basically saw the company rise from the ashes. But biggest company will eat you alive if you let it. A combination of bad management and a new hire. A PhD. That didn't believe a word that came out of my no degree having woman mouth just put the nail in the coffin for me. It's a bummer, but overall no raggarts." This comment received 35 upvotes. A comment from user Silver Roseblade says, "As a woman working as an engineer, kudos for you on this. Rightfully well-deserved revenge." This comment received 70 upvotes.